So we had a very dramatic weekend, and there has been some damage in the Bitcoin chart on short time frames for the first time since the wake just after the ETF launch. But we don't trend Bitcoin on the 6-hour time frame, we trend it on the daily, and there the uptrend is still intact. So what will happen now? Before we go into that, let's look at the detailed timeline of the events this weekend. So the launch of the missiles happened Saturday night my time zone, and then Bitcoin, which was one of the few trading assets, dropped about 10%, and Pax Gold shot up from 2,300 something up to a high of 3,295. So if anyone still thought that the gold breakout that we covered here at about 2,060, and gold is somewhere where leverage makes sense, and if anyone took that using the Pax Gold proxy, it doesn't seem so boring anymore, does it? But of course these were not circumstances we can celebrate. Of course we hope that markets move for other reasons than this. But then pretty soon, on Sunday morning my time already, Iran declared the attacks over. And as of right now this morning, Israel has no final plan to attack Iran yet, but there has been some reports claiming that they intend to launch a strike back. But I hope that Paul is right here, that it de-escalates here. Because when Iran fired 300 plus drones and rockets, early reports are that 99% were shot down. Of course, Iran knew that when they were launching them, so the damage was minimal. That might be the ideal scenario for Iran, to check the box on retaliation without Israel needing to retaliate for fresh damage. Clearly, at least the market thinks so, because gold is not trading at doomsday levels on the actual gold market today. If we look at different indices, S&P mini futures looks normal, some small recovery. Hang Seng index in Hong Kong opened down versus Friday, but not with that much, and has already recovered a bit. And China index is up from Friday. I don't think Sweden index is much to go by, but that's also up. Yields also uneventful, and the big move in DXY was actually on Friday, not today. So the global markets in general definitely don't think it's a World War III situation. So let's go back to Bitcoin. If you watched previous videos and read any of the last 3 Friday TA reports, you know I've talked about this level at 70,800. That really became the clear resistance, where every time Bitcoin tried to cross this area, boom, came a sell order and price down below the line again. Now, seeing what actually happened, of course it's very sinister. Did someone know about this and choose to capitalize on it on one of the least regulated markets? Who knows? But someone was very insistent on selling here and started getting more and more impatient as we approached this weekend Saturday. Overall, the dip is not that big. This is only a minus 16% dip. And if we're measuring from all-time high, the total dip is not even 20%. Minus 17.6%, almost exactly on the dollar from the March 20 dip. Then price has already recovered quite a bit. And if we go back to the correct daily time frame, there is no damage to the trend. The trend is still intact, the trend is still up. No change. But this level, 70,800, let's continue to monitor it. Let's find out if it has something to do with this dip and if it has played out its role or not. This is definitely the level that I will continue to monitor. And it's another reminder why you don't trade patterns before they have confirmed, because this one never confidently actually broke out. Instead, we have some other rather interesting news today. One being that Solana's mainnet that aims to resolve the congestion issues is being recommended for general use by mainnet beta validators. And it's supposed to help with the ongoing network congestion, because if you have tried using Solana, this has been a real problem the past period. The protocol hasn't worked, and that really got reflected in the price. This pattern on the Sol BTC chart that was a beautiful flag didn't confirm, didn't break up, instead it broke down, and from the breakdown you had several days to react, and then boom, another 21% drop on the Sol BTC chart. And from the breakdown on the 9th or 10th of April on the USD chart, we had actually a 33% drop in SOL versus USD. Here was the breakdown probably on the 8th, and it was pretty clear on the 9th, even clearer on the 10th. That was here in the USD chart. So plenty of time to react there. And you could even argue that this is a double top or a distorted head and shoulder, which isn't completely correct, but prices in crypto sometimes are not exact. Small random events have big impact. So now it's that level on the USD chart to reclaim, and the BTC chart has now morphed into something else. We'll have to see how this develops and take it from there. I just want to draw your attention to this, that if this actually solves the problems that actually got reflected in the price chart, perhaps the resolution to those problems will also be reflected in the price chart. The second development today has to do with Ethereum, a chart that looks absolutely garbage. ETH, BTC, Vitalik, what are you doing? Here we had this rectangle, didn't manage to break out, instead now it has broken down on the downside. Price now sitting below this key support. Not pretty, not pretty. Trend is down on every conceivable time frame. Weekly, 3 day, 1 day, 6 hours. So the burden of proof is really on the bulls here. I'm not gonna touch this unless this key support level is reclaimed and confidently seems to hold once again. It's not much difference in price. Here is 0.049, here is 0.051. It doesn't really matter. I'd much rather buy at slightly higher prices with lower risk. So I wanted to say that first before I show the news, because honestly this is pretty big. Hong Kong approves first Bitcoin and Ethereum spot ETF. If you've never been to Hong Kong, you might not understand how much money exists in Asia. So this isn't some minor sideline comment. There is some statements like conditionally approved, but says here that replying to Reuters questions, the SFC said it issues a conditional authorization letter to an ETF application if it generally satisfies its requirements, subject to various conditions, including fee payments, filing of documents, and the Hong Kong Stock Exchange listing approval. And as you know, Hong Kong has been promoting the city as a global digital asset hub as part of a drive to boost its attraction as a financial center. And it says that at least 3 offshore Chinese asset managers will launch the virtual asset spot ETF soon. So this is what we know. And of course, the other implication of that is that perhaps the US will start feeling the competition. Should it really be allowed to trade an Ethereum ETF only in Hong Kong and not in the US? Really? We will find out. Of course, ETH BTC is up today, but so is most other things, bouncing from the drop on Saturday. But it's not a monster candle like this, while actually this is pretty big news. So I think don't log out monitoring Ethereum yet. Of course, what we want to see is this area reclaimed. If that doesn't happen, there is no need to take any other action. Of course, we want the trends to start turning up one after another. If this support starts holding, starts building up. But I do keep an open mind. Maybe it will never happen. Maybe the success of Base, for example, will not be reflected back in Ethereum price. Base doesn't need to pay much in fees to Ethereum to run their network. And this is in stark contrast to the Sol BTC chart, and worth noting the BNB to BTC chart, which is actually the one that looks the best out of all of these. I pointed it out early in our Friday tier reports. Breaking above this support level was so key. That has really been the key support resistance area for BNB. We noted this breakout, and since then price has gone into this consolidation pattern, which is a textbook flag. And a break above this level and this level are definitely actionable events. For Bitcoin, I did not sell anything here, and I actually didn't buy anything either. It felt risky to buy something when I went to bed at Saturday night with potential World War III headlines. Then on Saturday morning it seemed already resolved, and frankly it was a dip for mice. From 70,800 to today's level, it's like 6% here, it doesn't matter. I want to comment on one more thing that I think is very interesting. I mentioned last Friday in Friday tier report that Bitcoin dominance trend is still up. That hasn't changed, I wrote. And what happened? BTCD actually reached my resistance level. This level I haven't drawn now, that has been here before because it goes back all the way to 2020 and 2019 at 57.2%. And as you can see here, the magical lines worked again. Bitcoin dominance ran up to that, then rejected a bit. So this is definitely the level to watch. Should Bitcoin dominance break through that, I would be even more hesitant to a generic alt strategy of just holding a bunch of random alts. It's still necessary to be very selective, very surgical about which altcoins, because this chart tells a different truth than maybe the impression you get from social media. Altcoins as a group have underperformed versus Bitcoin going back to November 2022, which is now 1.5 years ago. We have not been in alt season during this period. Alt season looks like this. That's when BTCD falls off a cliff and altcoins are making major advances versus BTC. At one point, this could start looking like this. So that opportunity is probably still ahead of us. Finally, I would like to remind of this video, which was from February 21st, 2024, which was down here when price was 50,000, well before we had reached these 70,000 plus levels. And I painted these two scenarios, one based on Bitcoin parabolas. Now today I see other people start talking about this, but I saw that they got the calculations slightly wrong. When you're trying to copy, at least copy it right. So if you haven't watched it, I recommend to watch the original video, which I will link over here. I think that is still boxing in the two outline scenarios. We need to have a grip of the total width of the possible outcomes, and then we take reactive actions to track which of the two scenarios seem to play out. Big updates are coming to Large Line Pro. If you haven't signed up yet, make sure you've taken the course and that you are already a pro member. ctolarsson.com, everything else is a scam. Thank you, tack. CTO Larsson out.